Great. So welcome everyone. Happy solstice if you celebrate. My name's Kelly Buells, and I've been working with the Participatory Grantmaking Community for, it must be 4 years now since we started. And it's been a really fun evolution to see this community grow from like 12 people to, I think we're at almost 2,000 people from all around the world at this point, which is really wonderful to see so much interest in shifting power in philanthropy. So I would like to take a moment to introduce our new program consultant, Gloria, who's going to introduce herself briefly.
Thank you, Kelly. Hi, everyone. It's lovely and wonderful to see you all. My name is Gloria Mugabekazi. I am currently the new programs consultant with PGM Community. So I'm excited to be meeting you all on this wonderful call. I have been with the community for about 3 months or so now, and this is my first time also interfacing with most of the members outside of emailing and the virtualness of communication. I do work around, my work intersects at along gender justice, participatory grant making, and social justice, and I have been within this space for over 8 years now. I have worked with Uhai Ishri, which is an indigenous-led African first fund for funding for queer persons and marginalized persons. I have worked along other social justice movements, especially the feminist movements within East Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. I am based in Uganda and Kenya, so I oscillate between the two countries. And I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, Kelly.
Great. And thank you to those who are putting your information in the chat. It's fun to see so many great groups represented here. So yeah, Gloria, do you want to do, we have a little poll that we put together for you all to just get a sense of who's in the room and yeah, what you're interested in from the participatory grant-making community.
Yes, we could do it now. I was hoping that by now we'll have most of the registrants here, but I don't know if that will mean we'll have to do it again. So could we maybe do it in between? What do you think, Kelly? Because we're about 12 people, and I'm thinking some more people might join. So maybe we could do it in the middle as we go along. Yeah.
That sounds good. Yeah, we do still have some people joining here. Okay, well then I will start. I will kick us off by, we thought it would be helpful to give a little bit of context about how we got here and sort of our thinking behind launching this new programming. So I have a little slide deck to share some information with you all. Can you all see my screen there? Great. Great. So as you might know, we used to have pretty regular programming. We had monthly calls. I think we called it Tuesday Club and Thursday Club for anyone who was a part of that. And it was just a chance for practitioners in participatory grant making to come together with their peers and chat. And then we also hosted what we were calling deep dives that looked more deeply into different topics related to participatory grant making. And we did record all of those, and they are available on our YouTube channel, which you can get to through our website. And on our website, we also have curated like some of the most popular ones of those, and then also some of like the geekier ones. If you're really, like want to get into like, what are the models of participatory grant making, or how do you do evaluation or safeguarding? So that's really like a wonderful wealth of resources that we have. But we were also feeling like wasn't necessarily meeting the needs of the community, who really wanted to sort of be in more peer spaces and build deeper relationships and continue to deepen their practice. So last year, we did a survey with the community. Oh, this is what we were going to talk about today. Sorry. Yeah, so I'll jump quickly to this, the agenda. We are going to give a brief background. This is what I've started to talk about already. We're going to talk about the purpose of the cohorts, which is the programming for going forward. Some of the eligibility criteria we've come up for that, how you can indicate your interest in joining, and also next steps. So that's what we'll be talking about today. Yeah, so we sent out a survey last summer and it was to everyone in the community, and we're really grateful for everyone who responded. And basically some of the key information that we got was, one is that almost 50% of the community is like fairly new to the practice. And actually more than 50% of the community. So people are coming here because they're interested in learning about participatory grant making and they want support and getting started. But we also noted that there are a good chunk of folks in the community that have been practicing participatory processes for a long time, and some that are even, consider themselves to be deeply participatory. So we were thinking a lot about how to structure programming that would meet the needs of both of those groups of people. So then when we started to ask folks what would be helpful for them in their journey, the number one response that we got was peer learning. So people are really keen to learn from each other. And yeah, I think be in relationship with each other. We also had a lot of people interested in deep learning around specific issues. And then also this idea of networking with other practitioners, getting to know others in the field. And then we also did get a fair amount of feedback around advocacy in the wider sector. So how do we make sure that we're pushing the field of philanthropy forward to be more participatory generally? So those were just some of the pieces of feedback we got, and that has really been a key part of informing this new cohort model that we've conceived and we're going to be piloting starting in the fall. So, yes. Yeah, so Gloria, do you want to share a little bit more about the purpose of the cohorts?
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, I'll do that. So just like Kelly has shared how we have gotten to this place, the purpose of the cohorts is also deeply ingrained in the fact that we are all on different journeys when it comes to participatory grant making. And so this cohort is to be able to cultivate a network of philanthropy professionals and people that are working and committed to PGM to be able to grow. And I think we can all agree that since 2020, especially in the middle of the pandemic, we've seen such growth within PGM and being adopted across philanthropic initiatives. And so we hope that with these cohorts, we'll be able to continue to do that. And also these cohorts will be such a powerful force for advocacy across the sector, again, for PGM practices. The space will also be a sharing space for learning, expertise, sharing, and building a base of people that are enthusiastic around power shifting models within philanthropy, and also to really develop a common body of knowledge and practice. I think that most of us have different tools and frameworks and practices that we are using and that are informing our work around PGM. So these cohorts are going to be able to sort of like bring all those together, and then we share them with the participants and the cohort members. And so we can start with the Start Well cohort. Thank you. The Start Well cohort is focused on supporting community members who are just getting started. So this is about less than 5 years within PGM, within the practice of PGM. This is also because, again, people are on different journeys and we want to have that intimate and intentional journeying of people along the PGM journey. It's going to be a smaller cohort that is focused on aspects around practical frameworks, power dynamics, shifting of power dynamics, and really looking at how to operationalize PGM practices within the different work that we all do. We're going to be offering it as a series of virtual small group workshops. But also the beauty about this is we're going to have access to coaching with leaders within the space. So having that peer-to-peer connection of people that are along the same journey, but also of people that have journeyed somewhat along a way for information and knowledge sharing. And for this particular cohort, when we look at the eligibility criteria, this is for people that are starting out to implement participatory grant making or that are interested to implement PGM practices. You or your organization has less than 5 years, I think I mentioned that, with the PGM models, and you're also interested in exploring PGM in line of our community values. And just to clarify that the cohorts are open to individuals and organizations. So you could be a freelance or consultant, or you could be attached to a specific organization. Next slide. So when we start to think about like the curriculum around PGM and what are some of the Start Well knowledge and materials that we would love to share with the cohort within this cohort, it's going to look around PGM essentials, the history of PGM, what are the grounding values that bind us together in form of practice and movement building. We're going to look at also PGM practical frameworks, models, and best practices, because we're going to have a cohort, this cohort co-created by facilitators that have worked around PGM across the globe. And so we'll be able to have that knowledge shared within the cohort by the facilitators and the curriculum co-creators that we're going to have on board. One of the other things that we're going to be looking at is PGM evaluation and measurement and learning. We have a conversation on our YouTube channel, which looks at evaluation, which is always a sensitive topic within PGM practitioners. And so we want to build onto the conversations that have already started within the space, and the ongoing conversations around how do we measure PGM and who measures PGM, and how do we carry those learnings forward to inform our practices along the way. And we're also going to have, like I'd mentioned, cohort peer learning sessions, because we will have people from different regions, different backgrounds and practices. So it's very essential for us to interact with each other, again, in a more intimate and curated space at our own pace as well, to be able to share that knowledge. We're going to also have one-on-one sessions with coaches and facilitators, something that the PGM community had been doing before, but again, this time it's going to be more intimate and more intentional, depending on the participants' history and journey and experience along the PGM models. Yeah, that is the curriculum. I think we can just go into the details. At this point, you might be wondering how you're going to be able to join and when, and all of that. And so we have designed an expression of interest form that we'll be able to share with you at the end of the call, but also following the call via email and through the other existing platforms. And in that expression of interest, you'll be able to apply and express your interest. And the details in there really about your identity and why you're interested in joining the PGM cohort of Startwell, and such details. And our selection process will be taken on a rolling basis until July the 31st. We anticipate to have about 8 to 10 spaces available. Again, these are pilot cohorts. This is a pilot program that we're starting out. So in terms of numbers, that's why we have a smaller number, because we would love to see how this pilot can journey with all of us. And so we want to start with the 8 to 10 spaces. And in terms of cost, we would like to also ask for contribution to support us in the running of the program. And at this point, because again, it's a pilot program, we'll be taking a fee between 25 to 500 pounds for individuals, and between 500 to 1,000 pounds for organizations. So depending on where you're joining and how you're joining us, that's how we'll be able to determine the cost. In terms of when this program is going to run, we're planning to start off within the fourth quarter of the year until the first quarter of 2025. So that will give us ample time to have all the sessions that we have planned and cover the curriculum, but also have the spaciousness to interact more intimately and learn from each other. And yeah, that is about Startwell. I would welcome questions and any reflections so far. Back to you, Kelly.
Yeah, I am going to pause here just to see if folks have any specific questions about the Startwell cohort. No, it's super clear. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, great. So I am going to share a bit more about the other cohort that we are envisioning for this community. And this we are calling deepening practice. And basically this has been something that we've been wondering about for a long time in this community, which is how do we hold space for practitioners who've been doing this for longer, and sometimes are, like a little bit deeper in the weeds with some of the complexities of holding participatory processes. And yeah, so basically we've come up with this idea of a deepening practice cohort, which would be a group of longtime practitioners who can be in community together to think about what's needed to deepen participatory practice, to think about what's needed to push the field forward, and also to start to think about what accountability might look like for the field. We imagine that this would be for practitioners who have 5 or more years under their belt of practicing participatory grant making. And that would be really interested in this idea of contributing to participatory grant making thought leadership. We do, we're interested in folks who have demonstrated a track record to being committed to working with communities, and interested in exploring participatory grant making in line with our community values. Yeah, and so we don't have a really specific curriculum for this, and this is something that we've gone back and forth with a lot. We've been engaging with our accountability circle to provide feedback on the structure of these programs. But basically, we've sort of just been thinking about how do we hold a space for curiosity, and how do we hold a space for care for people who have been holding this work in the field for a long time, some of whom, might be pioneers in the space. I don't love that word, but if anyone knows of a better word for pioneer, please tell me, because I've been looking for one. And what we're hoping to do is just create like a space where those folks can come together and really just have these conversations and see what comes of it. And we didn't want to attach too many outcomes to that, just because we really want it to be driven by the people who are in that cohort. We have a lot of imaginations about what like we think could come out of that. And we definitely are thinking about like how that group can be linked with the Start Well cohort, because we think there's like natural resonance there to have like relationships. But again, as we do these pilots, we're kind of just going to get started and see like if some natural synergies emerge out of that. So yeah, that's the idea. We want to host 3 sessions starting in the fall, where they would just be, you know, facilitated and held space for longtime practitioners to come together and build relationships. So if this is something that's interesting to you, you can also fill out the expression of interest form. We've created that to be an expression of interest form for both cohorts. We are wondering about how to best curate the group. You know, as a participatory organization, and our governance is also participatory, we're always mindful of being really transparent about the processes that we use to invite people into spaces, acknowledging that we just won't be able necessarily to like, you know, hold space for everyone who's been practicing over 5 years. We're in a very lucky situation where there's probably hundreds of people now who have been practicing longer than 5 years. So if, you know, like if we do find that we need to select an initial group, we'll just, our commitment is to just be transparent about that with everybody. So yeah, that's our hope for the deepening practice cohort. So I'm going to pause again to see if anyone has any questions. I mean, we're really curious to hear how this is landing with folks, and if people are excited about getting involved. Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, hi everyone. Sitting here with Jay from Partisan and Ron. We're quite excited by what we've heard, and I think we're probably a mix of. So I've been practicing PGM through Kelly Chase Foundation, and sort of other community sort of led programs, and sort of sitting with Partisan to try and share some of that learning. But really, you know, we want to link in with a much wider range of peers doing this work. So it was really to say that we're sort of a mix already in the space, but wondering about sort of the option to sort of spread ourselves over the 2 spaces for those who are starting out and those who are a bit sort of longer. So it's just reflecting that back, really. Quite excited to find out a bit more.
Yay, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, we've just been holding this question for a long time about how to build, you know, stronger relationships and have more peer-to-peer learning in an intentional way, which is really hard to do with a global community of 2,000 people. So this is our first pass at it. Any other questions? Tyler.
Hey, Kelly. I want to first thank and congratulate the group for thinking creatively in a building the new is really difficult. So to go through and try to figure out how to go through that fog and figure out what to do. Congratulations on that. I have 2 questions. I know I'm working with activist groups in Africa, and I know at the start of their process when they were building a grant program from scratch in a participatory way, that they felt very alone in the work that they were doing. So I'm wondering, has the community thought about offers for those that are actually sort of the participants of the process, those that are building the process rather than the institutions that are hosting them or the consultants that are working with it? I mean, is there Is that part of the levels of thinking in the community of practice, or is it more towards the institutions? That would be my first question. Then my second question is, I would imagine in this, since it's been a rapidly developing community of practice, that there's probably a lot of groups that are also somewhere in the middle, that they're not 5 years in, that they're not just getting started. Does that mean that there's a collective in the collective that sort of falls out of the two offers? And I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on how you keep those voices involved.
Yes, thank you. Those are both really great questions. Yeah, so I would say to your first question about if this is for institutions or for the communities, I would say it's absolutely for both. The curriculum that we've designed will sort of speak to both. I think it's intentionally, going to be looking at the history and values of participatory processes, which is so critical, as anyone knows, to like getting started. But also we do want it to be really hands-on. We want it to be practical, where people can bring like issues that they are struggling with day to day, like as they're building or working with existing programs. So I would say it's like for practitioners versus like board members. And we do plan to bring like some amount of what I call the inner work, which just as a practitioner myself, I find is like half of the battle, which is just like learning to talk about and shift power and like how that shows up for each of us personally. So we do want to bring like both practical stuff, but then also sort of like reflective activities about like how do we talk about power in a group, like, have a power analysis or a racial analysis. And I imagine that this is sort of like why we wanted to have this info session, because we were, we want to get a sense of who's going to be interested and, curate the content a little bit towards that. And also to get a sense of the time zones, because that's another big factor for organizing. But yeah, for folks in the middle, I was just thinking about this the other day, because I was sort of like, I totally imagine there's like a lovely middle group. And yeah, I think that as things, as we roll out these pilots, I could potentially even see in like the Start Well group, maybe they sort of like pilot I don't know what you would call it, like the fancy middle. We'll come up with a fun name. But these were like kind of the two calls that we heard the most strongly. So that's why we wanted to start there. So I see a question in the chat. Oh, Allison, that's a great question. So the question in the chat is, I have more familiarity experience of participatory grant making from previous roles. I'm in a new role with an org, which is not yet on the journey. Which group do you think I should join? I love that question. Gloria, would you like to answer this question?
I could try, because I think this is also one of the questions we've been trying to go back and forth about between individuals and organizations, because some individuals are more have been on the journey for a while, and some organizations are just starting out, and also the other way around. And I think what we can say, or what I can say about this, is what would be your interest, and what would be your interest within this cohort? Would it be to further your practice or to further the organization's practice? And so if you would like to support the organizations that you're with, you could join the Start Well, because they're going to be some of the most practical and some of the frameworks that can be adapted for different organizations working in different contexts. So if you're joining so that you can, deepen the practice for yourself, then I would say you go for the deepening practice cohorts, because yeah, if you've been on this journey and you're looking for more than starting out, that could be for you. But I think eventually, like, the decision lies between you and the org to decide what you're going to be getting out of the cohorts. I hope that's helpful. I also wanted to say you're welcome, Alison. To Tyler's question around making sure that the practitioners that are based within like Africa or the global South, these cohorts are also designed to uplift the communities that are doing that work. And I think something that we might have mentioned at the beginning is that the selection process is also going to lie with the PGM community and our accountability circle to ensure the equitable representation. And so much as it's 8 to 10 spaces, those are going to be inclusive and spaces that are reflective of participatory grant making across regions, across sectors. And so, yeah, and also having facilitators and sort of the coaches that are coming from the different spaces is going to be able to help us to take care of that. But these are really great questions. Thank you. Yeah. I see another question about Start Well. The grant making is primarily focused on grants to individuals and family rather than organizations, and the program aims around increasing financial security. We're early in the journey, working with people lived experiences of financial insecurity to design and shape our programs, but we're not sure how to embed PGM practice into the grant making due to factors that grantees are individuals. Would the Start Well group be appropriate for our type of organization? Yes, I think this would be a great start for organizations that are starting out like this. I know that some of the interested organizations that are also within the community are people that have like a small group or small committee of individuals that are leading their participatory grant making models. So a sort of like a participatory grant making committee. So I think, yeah, Start Well would be definitely the best for you, Hannah, and your organization.
Yeah, Hannah, I was also going to add, I'd love to talk to you offline about making grants to individuals because that's like a personal passion of mine is how do we liberate more funds outside of the traditional models. So thank you for naming that. And I definitely think that we'll get into that. So. Okay, we have a question about the sliding scale. Yes, so we recognizing that this is a pilot, we're trying to hold that together with that it will cost us money to run the program. So we did frame it so that, there are prices that are like less than it would cost per person. And there are prices that are a little bit more than it would cost per person. I think we're estimating it would be like around $750 per person right now, like just our initial guess. And so the idea is sort of like, if you're in a position where you really can't afford more, we want to make subsidized rates available. We really try to be inclusive as a community, while also paying attention to our own sustainability. And then we have like a higher rate, like if you're in an organization where you feel like you could contribute to the community, to the work, to building the field, to helping other people get this knowledge, then you could select a higher rate. We are letting people sort of choose that. We like intentionally didn't link that to organizational budgets just because we know it's complex. So it's really sort of like the honor system, whatever people feel is right for them. And we wanted to offer lower rates and then invite people to donate more if you think this work is valuable. So I hope that answers. Okay, great. That's helpful. Yeah, these are really great questions. Hey, Ekaterine, what are the selection criteria? Awesome. Exciting to hear that you're piloting a fund. Yeah, I think the only things that we have in mind right now is we do want to have a diversity of people within the cohorts. That's in alignment with our values. We find that incredibly important. So we do want to make sure that there is a good mix of folks in there. That's kind of all we have right now, just because we aren't sure how many people are from where, like, will we have consultants? Will we have foundations? Will we have community groups? There's just so many different types of people that might be interested in this. So we don't have any specific selection criteria besides that at this point. I think something else we're probably going to have to look at is time zones, in terms of like people signing up. Because there are places in the world where you can't have everybody in the world on a phone call at the same time. Our accountability circle is like California to the east coast of Africa, and there's only 1 hour in every day that we can get everyone on the phone. So it's definitely something that we're going to be paying attention to when people express their interest. So I wish I had like more clear selection criteria. As we're going through this first pilot, if selection criteria becomes clear to us, we'll definitely be transparent about that and use that moving forward. So I hope that helps. Yeah, great. Yeah, and is there a cost to joining the deepening practice? No, at this time, we've decided not to have a price around that. And that's another question that we've just been holding, because we imagine that if that group comes together, there's going to be a lot of wisdom shared. And we would love to like capture that wisdom and share it with the field, but we also want to make sure that it doesn't feel extractive to those wisdom holders. And so I think what we're going to do with this pilot is just have the 3 facilitated sessions and see what feels valuable to the people who show up to those sessions. And if it feels like there's a lot of energy to like create content and provide field building, we might even, like offer stipends or something for folks. We're really mindful of like not wanting to be extractive about, as people share wisdom. So initially we're thinking no cost, and we'll be learning a lot from this first cohort to see how we might structure it going forward. Laura, I've talked a lot. Do you want to take Tyler's question?
Yes, I would love to. About the offering, yes. So as we shared earlier, from the reflections and the feedback from the community and trying to find a middle ground of what works for, the peer coaches, the Thursday and Tuesday clubs, this is a middle ground to say that we can now have more intimate and more intentional, curated spaces. However, that won't stop us from having the public facing events that we've always held. And I don't know if we're letting the cat out of the bag too early. We plan to have one around September as well, while the cohorts are running. So just to say that other processes that have been ongoing within the community are going to go forward, except those programs that have been existing, that have been compressed into these 2 cohorts. But things like webinars, thought leadership spaces, information sharing, resources, those are going to be available for the community, and we'll continue to update them. And also, if there recommendations around what are some of the things that we can have conversations around. We also still welcome that sort of feedback. So feel free to always email us or share with Kelly or myself within the Slack group or on email about some of the things that we can start to pick up and put our focus on for the public facing events. Yeah. All right. These are really great questions. And thank you all. I like that we are thinking about how the cohorts can be more flexible and more, sensitive to some of your needs. And this is also going to help us to continue to curate it to be able to address some of those things, because yeah, it's going to be interesting to have to cater to different time zones, different regions. But I think that is why we have this community to keep growing intentionally. Yeah. Any more questions, comments? I mean, don't feel pressured. You can still also email us with any more questions, especially when you're filling out the expression of interest form. So just to say and name that so that people don't feel so pressured, because this is the first time you're also interacting with this information. So just to hold space for that, to say you can also reach out to us with the feedback, the questions. Yeah.
Let's see. Gloria, do you want to do that poll now?
That poll, yes, let's do it. All right, so the poll is to also get a feeling of who is in the room, where are we lying between the two scales, and also to, sort of get your interest around these cohorts. And so feel free to take 1 or 2 minutes to fill out the poll. I hope that you all can see it on your screen right now. So the first question is for us to be able to understand who is where, again, to curate the program more with the people that we have in the room. And then the next question is also to understand what you'd be looking forward to in terms of the community new programming. Does this work? Should we change it? I mean, it's a pilot program, so there's room for that. There's room for flexibility. I see Anna doesn't see the poll. Okay. I can see some responses already coming through, so I'll try to reshare it. Let me know.
Mine popped up like on a different monitor. So I don't know if that happens to other folks. That it might
Probably.
somewhere strange.
Probably. Let me see how to reshare this, if it's possible.
We could also have you just put it in the chat. The first question is, on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate your stage in implementing PGM? 1 is starting and 5 is a long time. So you could throw your number in the chat if you wanted to also. And then and the second question is, what are you most looking forward to from the PGM community new programming? Which is a short answer question. So
Thanks, Kelly. I've dropped them in the chat as well. All right, I see that for now, most of us are, between starting out and being somewhere in the middle, which is, I think, one of the conversations that we have been talking about right now. The poll will be closing in the next 30 seconds so that we can also have time to, maybe chat about the results and the next steps. Yeah. And I think we have about 12 responses for now, which is great.
Mm. You want me to show the last slide, Gloria?
Okay, so let me end the poll and we
Okay.
could look at the results. Let me know if you're able to see them, to see where people are lying. And we see that we have about 3 people out of 9 that are just starting out. So on 1, meaning it's very, very early on in their stages. We don't have people around 5. We have people within 4, 3, and 2. So which also means that there is, like some mid-level knowledge that has been gained from their experience. But I think this is great. This is great. And when we look at question 2, we see that most people are looking towards learning more about PGM evaluation and learning, increasing knowledge to local communities and collaboration and sharing and gaining knowledge, and sharing practice and challenges and finding out how to shift power. And yeah, learning tangible and practical ways around PGM. And so I think that this is such a great, response to see that most people are actually deeply interested in how do we do PGM? What do we do? What do we need to do? What are the tools? What are the frameworks? What are the ways of doing it? Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you for participating, and I will hand it back to you, Kelly.
Great. Okay, so we have our last little slide here. Okay, so next steps, we will share our the expression of interest form. For anyone who is interested and wants to let us know that. And we are going to have that open until the July 31st, I believe is what we said. Just to give people a chance to express their interest. Let me just drop that form in the chat again. And hopefully we've set all the settings. I'm like the queen of sending documents and then not giving anyone access to them. So let us know if you can get in there. As Gloria said, please reach out if you do have any more questions. This is definitely, it's a pilot, it's still in formation. We're just really curious to all learn together as we work and build relationships within these cohorts. So please feel free to reach out to either of us. If you have questions, and yeah, our hope is to let people know the status in August, in the early part of August. And at that point in time, we'll probably have a lot more information about dates and what you can expect going forward. And I think that's everything. Yeah, as Gloria mentioned, we're planning like a public facing webinar for the fall. We're planning to continue to do those quarterly. If you aren't on our Google group or Slack group, those are like really conversational spaces for people to be in community with each other. We also have a newsletter if you prefer to have more curated content. We do quarterly newsletters that sort of give an overview of what we've been working on, what we've been seeing in the space and what's coming up in the space for the last quarter. And then, yeah, like if you have other ideas, if there's other things you need or would like to see, let us know. We're really curious about how we can continue to support this very large global community to push the field of philanthropy to transform and shift power. So it's exciting work, and really grateful for everyone who came today and all the wonderful questions. Yeah, and if there,
Thank you.
oh yeah, you're welcome. we had a little extra time because we didn't know how long we would need for questions, but I think we can end early. So thank you all so much, and hopefully we'll hear from all of you soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Much.
Thanks so
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.